Beginning to think bargaining table talks in motorsports won't work anymore. It's not like factory workers and management where the workers speak with a single unionized voice. Teams don't have common needs like lunch pail factory workers. I'm looking at this from the outside, and it appears only the two teams are holding out. So if you believe the reports, NASCAR's most successful teams like Hendrick, Gibbs, and Penske bought the final offer from NASCAR. Denny, who drives for Gibbs and is a part owner in 2311 Racing, says NASCAR forced or coerced teams like Hendrick, Gibbs, and Penske into signing the latest charter agreement. Really? Hamlin is the loudest voice in this ugliness, and he keeps saying the teams don't get a large enough slice of the NASCAR pie. But teams like Hendrick, Gibbs, and Penske are slicing different pies. Hendrick and Penske run billion-dollar businesses, and Gibbs has billion-dollar partners on Wall Street. Asking NASCAR for larger slices isn't the business now. Hamlin keeps saying teams don't like NASCAR's final offer. Well, maybe he doesn't speak for everyone. Peace.
Here's a thought. Is it NASCAR, or does NASCAR have Joe Gibbs, Rick Hendrick, Roger Penske? This is going to sound awfully brave of me. Does he have those guys been over a barrel to where they can't make a move like this? That a little bit of Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan, who have kind of an independent team over here, and it's not the big conglomerate that's been in NASCAR for so many years, that they can be as vocal as they are?
I see what you're saying. I look at it more as Roger Penske, Joe Gibbs, Rick Hendrick, this revenue sharing model or a change in the revenue sharing model doesn't matter as much to them because they've already made it, so to speak, with the old way of doing things, that they don't need another couple of million coming their way because they've figured out how to make it work as is. That's the way I look at it. In what we're going to play with Denny Hamlin coming up, Denny admits that, teams are going to do what they feel is in the best interest of themselves. And that's fine. It's just that Denny and Michael Jordan's team, obviously Curtis is a part of this as well. Curtis's last name is escaping you.
Polk.
Curtis Polk. Thank you very much. Curtis Polk, Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin with 2311 think differently, as does Bob Jenkins with Front Row Motorsports. So is Denny Hamlin speaking for everyone? No, but he is speaking for others. I don't know if Keselowski with RFK was a part of who Denny Hamlin was speaking for, but I do know, based on recent articles that came out this week, that Keselowski was like, you know what? We signed because it's time to just move forward. And we're not going, well, I'm paraphrasing him, so Don't take my words verbatim, but it's like, hey, it's good enough. We need to move forward, basically, is the way I took it. So there are kind of three trains of thought there, and what I spit out just there for the Freak Nation.
Well, like I said, I think the business model is changing, and Keselowski, Gibbs, Penske, Hendrick, they're all saying, all right, cool, let's move on. We got to be in the race. So if this is a way to make sure we're in the race so that we can tell all of our other business interests we're out there, that's what's important. And I think part of what Crash is saying is true, is that they're not dependent on NASCAR to give them another $1 million that's going to make or break them. But I think their business model is changing, and I think all of the racing business model is changing. I think that's part of the delay in IndyCar, where there's a few teams, Penske again, and Andretti and Ganassi. They have interests that are outside of IndyCar, and they're probably the ones that are saying, let's just get on with it, where other teams like some of this Hukos, Hollinger,
Graham Rahal, Hollinger,
Hall, these teams that aren't as well funded, They are more dependent upon sharing some of the money that comes in over the transom. And Penske is saying, let's just get on with it.
Well, something that came to that, again, I did the old, huh? And you mentioned it in your scat when you used the word coerced. And that's out there. That's not hearsay. That's out there. I'm looking at Jenna Fryer's tweets from a couple of days ago. Yes, similar sources tell me any teams who have signed were coerced and threatened. That sounds like, and I think it was Polk that threw it out there, part of the 2311 team, that said, this isn't the 1960s. These predatory practices do not withstand scrutiny.
Now, real quick.
Those are heavy words, though.
Extremely heavy words. Keselowski was asked about the coercion or the predatory tendencies of what happened Friday night when teams were told they need to sign. And Keselowski said he did not feel like he was forced as a team owner.
What else do you expect? Out of line, what is he going to say? He's towing the company line. You know,
see Keselowski is being a company line tower.
I agree with that too, which is why, like, Denny Hamlin has his own set of what he wants in this whole thing, but I trust Denny Hamlin more coming out publicly because he's been the only one publicly on the side of drivers like him who are wanting his team to do better and to get more money. So I trust Denny Hamlin more than the teams who have already signed. So Kenny, when you said, the coercion thing, like, that's why this came together so quickly, is like Jenna Fryer hinted at earlier this week.
Yeah.
They threatened to take those charters away and everybody jumped because they didn't want to play ball. It's like every negotiation, right? With any collective bargaining agreement, it's whoever jumps first. And for whatever reason, those teams got scared when they were threatened to take their charters away. That's exactly what happened here, right?
You think Rick Hendrick and Joe Gibbs and Roger Penske they could buy NASCAR? You think they were concerned about what threats NASCAR or coercion NASCAR would give them?
Yes, because like Denny Hamlin's always been saying, those charters are worth a lot of money. They are. They're $40 million worth of money, and NASCAR is taking that right out from underneath them, to where that they wouldn't be able to run any races or anything, or just
need to change their business model and the way they get money. NASCAR is telling them the old stuff doesn't work anymore. So you can't continue to sell Baby Ruths and Snickers for a nickel. You got to sell them for $1 now. And the model is changing. And if you don't change with it, you're going to get run over.
Okay, which makes Denny Hamlin and Bob Jenkins and Michael Jordan holding out all more worth it, right? Because they're like, hey, things have changed. We all, as a big family, a big racing family, need to change with it collectively, not just one entity, the sanctioning body, but all of us.
It's not about collective. That's the issue here. It's gone a different way. Penske's not sharing money. Gibbs is not sharing. You think when Gibbs went to Wall Street, he said, hey, dudes, why don't you come over here and let's get some of this money off of Wall Street? He locked it in and managed to solidify his business. And Rick Hendrick, go sell another 1,000 cars tomorrow. So that's the point. It's changing, and you can't ask for NASCAR. NASCAR's in a pickle sometimes itself. It needs money. And it's not sharing the money that it doesn't have. It's got to watch out for its future. So you can't ask NASCAR to share because it ain't a sharing business anymore.
This, according to kickingthetires.net, Bob Jenkins, was asked about the charter agreement. Some of the things that he said, Bob Jenkins with Front Row Motorsports, it says, I don't think you can give somebody a 105-page document at 6 o'clock on Friday night and expect them to sign it by midnight.
Oh, okay.
I think it's very unreasonable there. And there have been some things that have happened through the negotiation process that, quite frankly, we just don't agree with. And we're obligated to negotiate in good faith, and we feel like we did. And I don't know that everything on the other side happened that way. My hope is that we'll continue the conversation and we'll get it figured out. NASCAR sure sounds like the old dude here. And they're using old dude guys like Joe Gibbs and Rick Hendrick and Roger Penske to go old dude negotiations. We got a break, Freak Nation. Denny Hamlin next. SpeedFreaks Pits and the Lucas Oil Studio. Freak Nation, now through the end of October, you can get up to $100 back with a Visa prepaid card when you buy 4 qualifying light truck or SUV tires from General Tire. That's right, man. Now through the end of October, buy 4 qualifying light truck SUV tires from General Tire. Get up to $100 back. Visa prepaid card. Check them out. GeneralTire.com.
Do you want to turn around and grab that hat again?
Not
this
now.
time, not grabbing your mic.
No, I'm not betting on that. Not happening again.
Bob Ross is wearing the General Tire hat. And
how about if I just do like over my shoulder, like
pointing
right? How about if I just
there?
do that? There's Bob Ross.
Mm-hmm. General Tire.
Crasher was part of the media scrum for the NASCAR playoffs last Charlotte, and Denny Hamlin was a highly sought-after figure. Crasher spent some good time with Denny, and they talked about a number of things, including this charter sitch that we spent the last 10, 12 minutes talking about in the last segment. Crasher started it off, where are the NASCAR charter discussions right now? Well, here's Denny Hamlin.
Stagnant.
What has to be done from either side to move it to the next level?
One side will have to wake up and be reasonable. That's all. Who's telling you it's getting closer and closer?
NASCAR. Yeah.
Oh, of course, they want it to, but the truth is that they keep going the wrong direction. There's probably a handful of teams that are just happy to take any deal that they can get, and then there's others with some business sense that says this is unreasonable. But everyone's going to do what their own what they want to do that's best for their team, and each one of the teams will execute an agreement that they feel is fair for themselves.
You are the vocal team owner, but do you have people in your ear or yanking on you to say, hey, can you do this for us? Can you say this on your podcast? Can you get this word out?
I think not directly, no, but they don't hate it either. But I'm not, I don't love being the megaphone. I wish some of these other owners who are griping to me through text and calls would just do it publicly themselves. But I think that they fear pushback. But
what's the fear pushback though? Trying to
yeah. That's the thing, is we're all trying to improve the sport and grow the sport, and we all want that. We all want what's best for the sport. The sport does great. We will do better. So I think we all just need to figure out how to lock arms and do it together. But we don't have any agreement in front of us that is locking of arms. It's all one-sided. People see me gripe, but they have to realize that I made a good living in this as a NASCAR driver, and I chose to invest back in the France family in NASCAR, and they are yet to show me an opportunity where I'm going to get that back.
Crasher spent some time with Denny Hamlin last week for the NASCAR playoffs in Charlotte, and listening to him talk about that, again, pardon me if I'm late to the program here, Freak Nation, but knowing that Denny Hamlin drives for another owner that's not speaking up and evidently signed the charter agreement, but Denny Hamlin is an owner of a team, 2 teams, with Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick, him and Michael Jordan, and Polk, first name? Chris Polk.
Curtis, excuse me.
Curtis Polk.
CP on the streets. That's what we call him.
Think about those conversations. Or is that going to create a chasm between Denny Hamlin and Joe Gibbs? Because Joe Gibbs said, just give me the money. Give me the money. But Denny Hamlin said, no, I don't want the money yet. We got to get to a pleasant resolution here.
It's a mess.
I sort of disagree with what he's saying. It's like the teams that say they get a scholarship in college, and they say, well, we're making money off of you, and we're giving you an education that's worth $100,000 a year. With these charters, they're giving him a guarantee to be in the race, and they're guaranteeing him some money for being in the race, and whatever other perks that come from that, which allows them to go to investors and say, look, we're going to be out there every week, and we're going to be in competitive cars now, and I just think that he's going about it the wrong way. I think he's got to say, all right, they're giving me this. How do I capitalize on that and go make even more money? He's asking NASCAR for $1 million. Wall Street might give him 100 times that.
But why does this just seem so strange to me? Because
it's a different way of looking at the same thing. You know, when people say, you sign this contract, we're going to own your names in perpetuity throughout the universe.
Mm-hmm.
That is, who's going to give up their name and likeness forever anywhere? And that's, NASCAR is saying, well, then don't sign the contract, but don't complain about it in the same breath. Go make money. You say you're in business, then use NASCAR to go make money. Don't take money out of NASCAR's pocket.
Where it's strange to me, what I meant by that comment was Denny Hamlin is the only one that's out front of this thing and not one other team owner. I get Jenkins with Front Row Motorsports, but that's Front Row Motorsports. His drivers haven't won championships. But Joe Gibbs, Roger Penske, Rick Hendrick, none of those sons of bitches are speaking up either way. NASCAR's not speaking up. It's Denny Hamlin. And
Denny Hamlin did say in that clip, of the people who are texting me, of the people who are talking to me.
I would think.
But then all of a sudden, here we are, and they signed.
I would think Trackhouse would be one of those teams, the newer teams, younger teams that don't have that old white dude mentality involved in NASCAR. That Trackhouse and Pitbull, that they would be one of those that would be out in front of this thing.
Also, Colleague.
Saying either way, I'm not saying to take Denny's side, but just to come out and talk about it, because my goodness, we started talking about this in February, and here we are.
It's, it's great that you mentioned that, Kenny. We literally know nothing about what's in this new agreement. Nothing's been leaked, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so strange. Like, one of the big talking points from Denny Hamlin the entire time, I think maybe the biggest sticking point for him, is he wanted them to be permanent. He wants these charters to be permanent, and these owners, Rick Hendrick, etc., Penske, for them to be able to be passed down for generations. Mm-hmm. Where in its current iteration, they can't do that. And so I wonder if that is the sticking point here. And to me, that makes the most sense as being the biggest sticking point. But for whatever reason, we aren't learning what the full details behind this. And that's what's so weird about this. And any other collective bargaining story you've ever talked about, the NFL, whatever it may be, right? These player strikes and whatnot, there's always leaks. There's always something coming out, because you got the two sides. You got the players and you got the league. And in this case, the players in the league and the teams, they're all mixed together into one thing. And so there's not really it's like conglomerate now, as opposed to what you have in modern sports. It's NASCAR is such a unique thing when it comes to that. It really is.
It's just sounds so old Big Bill France-esque of how Richard Petty and the drivers at one time back in the 60s, Statman, or was it early 70s when they were going to strike?
That was back in the
day.
70s, yeah.
I almost asked Denny about, is this heading towards a strike? Now I wish I would have.
I've been saying that for months.
Yeah.
I thought that's how this was going to go. And that was the only way the teams were going to get what they wanted. And for whatever reason, they didn't do that. And I think they're paying for it now.
So essentially, these charters will expire at the end of the year if no deal is done. But is a deal essentially done, since the majority of the teams, from what we're told, what we've been told, have signed?
Well, it certainly makes it harder to strike and cause any damage to the overall business if only two teams are withholding their services or potential.
How many tickets does Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick punch for a race, or any driver for Front Row Motorsports? If these teams are striking, they punch.
The argument is that the industry is bigger than any individual, and that's what NASCAR is selling. Said we're stock car racing. We're not Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch and these other people. We're stock car racing. We're Hendrick Motorsports. We're Penske. We're Ford. We're Chevy. We're Toyota.